On April 24th, 2013, in Dhaka, Bangladesh, the Rana Plaza garment factory collapsed. This was a completely avoidable accident. This accident was the most tragic and deadly in our entire history as far as casualties of garment workers. 2,000 people were injured, and over half of those people were killed. Many of them were women, some of them were children, most of them were the sole money makers of the families. Now, Dhaka, Bangladesh has a history of intense industrial clothing manufacturing, and those jobs are in very poor conditions, and those positions are like that because it's more affordable for American and European companies to produce and manufacture their clothing. Lax labor laws, child labor, and just unbelievably inhumane treatment of employees is commonplace. And it's one of those things that we try not to think about because it makes us feel bad. And it makes us feel bad because we know that we are part of that cycle. So when you see a t-shirt that's $5, you need to assume that someone somewhere is paying that price so that you don't have to. Oftentimes, it is the environment and people who are not getting paid for the hard work that they do. Now, the Rana Plaza factory was in dire conditions. Employees had noticed structural breaches in the building and had complained, and it was well known that this was a crumbling building, and nobody did anything because it's easier to keep going until there's a problem, just to ignore it until it's so big that you can't ignore. And this gigantic factory collapsed, and the rubble covered and killed many people. This is a really tragic story that was completely avoidable, but it also birthed a new revolution, a fashion revolution. The first year after that, there was a campaign that started and went global immediately called Fashion Revolution with the hashtag Who Made My Clothes. And if you've ever seen any of it, or if you are interested in learning more about it, fashionrevolution.org is an incredible resource. And the story is really important because it keeps carrying this message and keeps sharing these really complicated ideas. And it's something that really affected me personally. I had studied fashion design and marketing long before there was even any talk of such a major or concept as sustainable fashion. And there were lots of things with the fashion industry that I was fundamentally at odds with personally. And the more I learned, the more I recognized that. So I kind of just sat it out for a while. But after the Rana Plaza factory collapse, I was really activated. And personally, it was the impetus to start my own business, Themis and Thread, which is an ethical apparel company. And I started it that very next month, actually. May 2013 is when I filed my DBA for Themis and Thread, inspired by the tragic situation in Bangladesh, and I was dedicated to sharing that fashion can be sustainable and humane, and that it can support us rather than pit us against each other. And that terrible tragedy started a ripple effect that has been just traveling across the planet ever since. And there's something now, it's turned into that first year after the factory collapse, Fashion Revolution started, Fashion Revolution Day, which was a day in which we, talked about these really complicated issues and remembered the folks who died and why they died in Bangladesh. And after that first year and all of the success of spreading this story, they went from Fashion Revolution Day to Fashion Revolution Week. So now every year on the week of April 24th, we celebrate Fashion Revolution Week, and we talk about the complicated labor and environmental issues that are all entangled with the fashion industry. And it's not just like glossy Vogue magazine fashion industry. These are people that are sewing everything that you're touching right now. Every stitch of clothing, every piece of furniture, somebody has cut and sewn. And it's about time that there's a very strong focus on those people and that value and these important textiles that are a part of all of our lives.